I have never shared this story with anyone on the interwebs. In fact, a very small minority of people besides my family and I believe one other individual even know about this. This is a true story, and it's a positive story. This is not a relationship video, but once I'm done telling you my story, I hope that you'll understand why I hold the position I do on committed monogamous relationships. Back when I was, I believe it was 10 or 11, I don't remember what, I believe I was 10 or 11. It was in May of 2003. I'm terrible at math, and I was born in 1991, December 5th. I'm an animal person. I've always been an animal person. I've related to animals more than I have with people. I've never been able to relate well with men. I've been able to relate a lot better with women on a lot of different issues and topics, but I've always struggled relating with men on a lot of different things. So therefore, when I was young, I always fell in love with animals. Dogs, cats, cows. Yes, I love cows. I've milked cows before. I've been on a farm before. It's an environment that I actually truly enjoy, although you would find that ironic based upon my background and the room that you see me in. You would never picture me as a farm boy, I realize that. But I do like farming, and I do like being outdoors. But nonetheless, I was an animal guy. I loved animals. One of our first dogs, known as Daisy, part lab, part Rottweiler, and I'm a firm believer that I believe animals can love you. I believe that you can build a bond between animals, whether it's a cat and a human, or a dog and a human. Whatever it is, I believe that you can build a bond with an animal. So once my parents found out that I loved animals, they were set on getting me a pet. They wouldn't let me have any reptiles. They wouldn't let me have a python. We already had a dog at the time, so they wouldn't let me have another specific animal. And they said that if I got another animal, it would have to be small. So they said maybe a hamster or a guinea pig. But I didn't want a guinea pig. I didn't want a hamster. I wanted something that I could bond with, something that I could relate to, something that I could invest quality time into. And believe it or not, you can do that for an animal. It wasn't until a phone call was delivered at our house where my mom answered the phone, talked to the lady, then walked in my room and said, "Daniel, I think we found a pet." What I didn't know, though, is what this pet was. I will say that this pet is an animal which people really don't consider pets. This animal is usually despised by most people. When I bring up the topic of this animal, they're like, "Oh, one of those animals. That's disgusting. I hate those animals. It's such a nuisance. All they do is poop. Poop and poop." And while they are true, it does poop a lot, they're wrong on the animal being stupid, dumb, ugly. I was able to see beauty where I've never seen beauty before. When my mom told me what the animal was, I was like, "What? What?" The animal, actually no, I'm gonna hold off for a moment. So we got in the car the next week and we drove to this person's house. And I walked in the house and there was the box, and she led us to the box and we opened the box, and there before my eyes was something I had never seen before. At least in this size. Before me was a 1.5-week-old baby Canadian goose. Now, you're probably wondering how would this woman get a 1-week-old baby Canadian goose, but a game warden found this newly hatched baby goose out at a lake, and apparently the mother had been shot and killed. The mother was dead relatively several hundred feet away from the nest, and he found this and he took the little baby gosling in and gave it to this family who wanted it. And the family who had this baby gosling, with only being 1.5-week-old, actually had several small children, and they couldn't raise it, so they were trying to find someone to take this small baby gosling. And thank God, if he exists, thank God that this lady found me. Because upon opening that box, this little baby goose and me connected instantly at first sight. This baby goose gosling was a little bit bigger than a chicken when I first got it, and within the first several weeks the thing just started growing tremendously fast. The amazing thing about this story is that this little baby gosling, when it first saw me, thought I was its mother. And upon thinking that I was its mother, it attached to me instantly. And this little goose would follow me everywhere inside the house. Whether it was inside the house, the garage, whether if I was to go inside and shut the door, that little baby goose would sit at that door for 5 or 6 hours until I walked out of that door. It would sit there and would wait for me. If I was to run off, and the thing would follow me every place, and if I got out of sight, that little baby gosling would do this little meow, 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 noah, noah, noah. It would actually cry until that little goose gosling saw where I was. It would then run up to me, and then it would follow me everywhere. It's like, I don't know if you've ever seen baby ducklings follow its mother. It's exactly the same scenario. This little goose, baby goose gosling, thought I was its mother. And this is where the bond really started, because this bird and me just bonded on an emotional level, but also a physical level. This thing would get on my lap when I would sit out in the middle of the yard. It would just sit there and eat grass out of my hand. And it was just, I can't really explain it. You really have to, you don't see human contact with a Canadian goose very often. I mean, Canadian goose it's a wild animal. It's not something that you usually domesticate. It's not something that you raise. But I raised a Canadian goose. What you're about to see is a video clip. We're going all the way back in the past in 2003. The first clip you're about to see is me when I was 10 or 11 years old, and you will actually see live footage of this baby goose that I raised. The goose, when he first starts out, is absolutely adorable. You'll see. When I watched it earlier, it just brought back such good memories that my eyes just started filling up with water. It's like, I just can't explain to you my bond that I had with this little goose. The second clip is the goose maturing within 2 or 3 weeks. This thing, like I said, this thing was growing like crazy. And then the third clip that you're about to see, which was, I think it was after May, January, March, April, May, it was like in June, is when this goose became full grown. Like, it only took 2 to 3 months, and this, from a little baby goose gosling, it was a full-grown Canadian goose living in our backyard. And even as the Canadian goose was living in our backyard in a cage, and I would let it out in the backyard because we have a solid acre of grass, the thing would still follow me everywhere, and if I was to get out of its distance, it would start to cry, and would literally, it was still attached to me as its mother. So here are the clips.
That's right, that's right. He's too cool. He looks like a little duck, but he's big.
I wonder how long he'll stay in here.
I don't know. He's just sitting away. Ooh, this is fun.
There's almost he's running around a little bit, like a cartoon. I like the one he blows bubbles underneath the water. Oh, he almost did it. If he poops in there, what do you do? Well, we just dump it out and clean it.
They just poop whenever they want, please. They don't care where it's at. Even if it's on you, they don't care.
It pooped on me, and it was sleeping on me.
Oh, Daniel, help him. He's going to drown. Oh my gosh.
He flipped. See? Oh. You filming, John? Hi, this is little Goosey. I call him Fuzzy, because he's very cute and very ugly. He poops like almost 5 or 10 times a day. He loves to eat grass. He's a little piggy. Tips everything out of your hands. Shut up! And you came here to watch him fall over, or can he sleep with his little gut that we're going to watch? This is little Gussie. He's a very, very good goose. He nips at your fingers because he thinks they're food. And he eats everything. He eats grass, spiders, bees, dandelions, fingers, toes. It's everything he can find. Very vicious little guy. Come on. that's why I call it make him come. And he eats like nuts, and he drinks like nuts. He looks like a nut. And he's my best friend. I'll probably be pooping pretty soon. Well, that's all for today. See ya. Put your head under it. You're not a regular goose. I told you it needs to be deeper. I told you it needs to be deeper.
That's gotta be one of the funniest things.
He's trying to swim. Oh, he ate his poo. Oh. Gus! What happened, Gus? You scared yourself. I can't. Oh, here we go.
Probably splash. Then he goes underwater.
Tail.
Bottoms up. Sure. Looks like it there.
So once this full goose was full grown and mature, we had to do the hard decision, or I had to do the hard decision, and I had to let this, I guess I should say, domesticated Canadian goose that lived with me for the past 4 to 5 months, I had to let him go. But the problem is that I couldn't get rid of him. When we dropped him off at the lake, I remember getting in my car and trying to drive off with my mom, and the thing started to follow us. And it was... I remember just crying in the car, trying to, you know, like, I gotta let this goose go, because I can't keep a Canadian goose, a wild Canadian goose, in my backyard for the next, 10 years. That's not gonna work. This thing needs to be free. It needs to get out on a real lake and not live in our backyard where it's stuck within a certain environment. And it started to follow us, and it was so hard to leave this Canadian goose behind like I did. And I was for certain that it was either going to get killed or I was never going to see it again. That next month, a whole month passed, I had been going to the same lake after I dropped it off, trying to see if I could find the goose and it could find me. And no luck. It wasn't until the end of that month when we stopped, and all of a sudden I get out of the car and a goose randomly runs and flies up to me out of the clear blue. And again, month of not seeing a goose, and you let him into the wild, and then you go to the lake and he recognizes you and comes right up to you and starts sitting on your lap again. It was incredible, and right then and there I built that bond, and it was hard though, because I had to let the goose go again. You know, I see an animal I haven't seen for a month after it still recognizes me, and then I have to let it go again. And to this day, I don't know if the goose is still alive. I've went to the lake many times before, and I've never had that experience happen again. It only happened once, but Gus the goose, I don't know if it was a female or male, will always be in my heart. And you're probably wondering, where am I going with this video? But I want to talk about the qualities of a Canadian goose, because believe it or not, a lot of people are very ignorant on how Canadian geese do mating and how they view partners. When a Canadian goose finds a mate, whether this is specifically a female or male or female goose find a mate, Canadian geese are known for risking their lives for their partner. A Canadian goose will never ever have another partner. It's a one goose relationship, I should add. It's basically a committed monogamous relationship. These two geese, when they're together, they'll never leave each other. Even if a Canadian goose is shot down during migration season, the partner of that goose will fly around that goose, that's the mate of that goose. It will just fly around, and then it will eventually land on the ground, and it will sit with that shot goose or damaged goose until it dies. The goose will actually even try to help the other goose by trying to help it by providing building a nest for that other goose so it won't be killed by the environmental. And this is true. Geese actually do this. They will protect their young. In fact, it's been recorded that when farm fires have happened or specific forest fires that have happened within the wilderness, they have found geese, female geese, on top of baby goose goslings when the mother was actually killed from fires, but sacrificed its life to save its children. And I believe that this same quality can be applied to real parenting nowadays, of how a parent should love their child and should protect their child and do everything they can in their power to help their children. I don't really know if this correlates, but I sincerely think that a female goose protecting its young is how an adult male or female should protect their children. On the same note, I believe just examining the relationship between how a goose will never leave its partner, and even when that goose is damaged or hurt, it won't leave that other goose behind. It will stay with that goose until it dies. And to me, that is a quality of loyalty. That is a quality of dedication. That is a quality of that's a committed relationship between two birds. And I realize that sounds silly. I realize that sounds funny. But it wasn't until I released Gus into the wild where I realized that my bond, my connection with this goose was more than just a friendship. I love this goose with all of my heart and power. And this goose has really changed my perspective. It changed my perspective back then because I was very young at that time. But it instilled my belief now on committed monogamous relationships. When I look at the Canadian goose, I see a bird of loyalty and sacrifice, and that's what I believe every parent in every committed monogamous relationship should be. A committed monogamous relationship with two people. If two birds can honestly dedicate themselves to one another and sacrifice themselves for their children, why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we take the perspective and loyalty of a Canadian goose on how they view a relationship and protect one another and love one another? That to me is an extraordinary quality in animals, but I think that it would be a great attribute to society to have more flourishing marriages or boyfriend-girlfriend relationships where the two people love each other and sacrifice things for one another. I don't know if that makes sense. I realize this video is extremely cheesy, but I just wanted to share with you my story of raising a Canadian goose. Thank you.